Make sure they know that they're loved and appreciated. That's why we need to know these things, so that whenever you see a loved one having a 3-stage mental saga of an episode in an IHOP, you know how to help them.
Informational.
Yeah, that was a short version of it. Like I said, it's been about 3 years since I've done that piece, and about 2 years since I last performed. A OO is traditionally a 10-minute long speaking event. Speaking meaning you are not doing any characters. The only character is yourself. The other important part of an OO, or an original oratory, is you write it yourself. That was an event that actually happened to me. I was in FFA in high school, went on national convention, and had a full-fledged near cry in an IHOP at 9:30 p.m., which was great inspiration. There's a lot of fun things you can do with an OO.
I'll admit, I laughed when I heard the story.
Yeah, it was great. OOs are my personal favorite event because you get to write them yourself. It gives you a lot of creative freedom. It allows you to really express yourself in a way that a lot of the other events don't. The problem with that is an OO is the one event where your content is judged. Every other event, they judge you based off your performance. The script, don't get me wrong, for sure comes into play. Lego Batman, for example, a hilarious movie, which makes a hilarious group funnier, right? If you pick a really good HI script, it's easier to make that funny. But at the end of the day, like Brandon was saying, if you're good enough, in every other event, you can make a bad script win. In OO, if you write poorly, they get to actually judge that. Sometimes you don't write poorly. I never did great. I made it to state in OO. In my senior year, this is an example because OO is the most sort of finicky when it comes to judges, so I'm going to give that warning to everybody. My prelim rounds, I got straight first places in all of them, and got nearly dead last in finals, due to different judges. I did an OO about Dungeons and Dragons, if any of you know what that is.
Not at all.
Super big fan of tabletop RPGs. Did a whole 10-minute piece about the benefits of playing them and how they can help you be a better person. First 2 rounds, I have 20-somethings who know what that is, see me, hear it, think that it's really entertaining, give me first. Finals, I got 3 45-year-old women, didn't care about it at all, a feminist piece gets first place. So, there's 2 ways to do OO. You can write to win, or you can write to have fun. Sometimes those are the same, they tend to not be. Winning pieces in OO are not very tragic, but meaningful, I think is the best way to phrase them. Feminism, toxic masculinity, the power of a get up and go attitude, those sort of things. Tend to do very well in OO because they are very, very inoffensive. Nobody hears someone say, I had a terrible thing happen to me and I learned the power of never giving up, and goes, well, I hated that. I hate that you learned that lesson. Bad job. I tended to write really kind of silly, funny, dumb stuff because that's what I had fun performing. With that being said, does anyone have any questions more about, I'll get into a bit more of how the mechanics of the event works. Does anyone have any direct questions?
Could you talk about how you kind of moved
Yes, that is a big thing.
Baseball.
OO is a speaking event, so you don't have a character, but you do need to still move, and you need to do, you have to seem involved with the audience. The easiest way to do that, the most traditional way to do that, is what I call the reverse baseball diamond. So if you saw how I walked, you come intro, point 1, yada 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 yada. Point 2, yada 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 yada. Point 3, yada 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 yada. Conclusion. This allows you to say we have a judge over here. Point 1, I'm talking to this judge. I'm making eye contact with this judge. I'm looking around the rest of the room, but I'm in this section of the room. Second point, I'm in the middle of the room. I'm looking at this judge, these people. I'm making eye contact. I'm gesturing towards them. Third point, I'm over here. Then I'm back. I'm seeing the entire room. I'm making my closing argument, making my ending. Boom.
The movement is mainly about including everybody's
Yeah. Also, it makes you look comfortable. Moving around. If I'm up here,
Just standing right here.
One
on my
other
spot.
thing about movement is you should practice doing the movements, and you should practice having those be the markers of where your transitions are, because I know at least for me, they help me memorize
Yes.
what I'm actually doing.
Important note for every event, OOs, other speak. I'm gonna talk about a few of the other speaking events in a moment as well. Practice with your blocking whenever possible. Because if you practice with your blocking, one, you don't have two different memory paths in your brain to worry about at the same time. It's the same thing. And normally what will happen is the words and the motions will help you remember each other. So if I know that I walk after the word "and" in my final thing, I begin my walk, then I know that I start my fourth paragraph whenever I reach this point, and that helps keep my brain on track. Any other questions about speaking events? Yes.
In OO, I'm pretty sure it was like, you can't get, oh my god. You have to write scripts after like junior and, senior. You have to
Like,
write.
when can you do that?
What grade
I
do you
believe
want?
all grades can.
Yes,
All grades can.
grades.
However, that does bring me into the next thing. There is a thing called standard oratory, which is for freshmen and sophomores only. Standard oratory is, once again, a speaking event, so it performs the same way, except you are taking something someone else has written and performing it, like many other things. I did that one as well. I disqualified that event by going overtime in 4 different tournaments.
I also did that, and I did a script that he wrote for me. It was
I
about
don't think
me
it's
being
technically
too tall.
allowed.
It was about me being too tall is what it was.
But standard oratory, a little bit more flexible because it's pre-published. You can do that one a little bit funnier. I think I did How to Describe a Horror Movie. That was very fun.
Wait.
It was a good time.
You did How to Describe a Horror Movie?
Yeah, it's standard oratory.
I did that as an HI.
Yeah.
It was fun. Full frontal male nudity is the way to save yourself in every horror movie because can't happen. It changes the
I
genre.
switched that out with Satan.
I didn't change it.
I was too scared. So we changed the Hunting Satan and he kind of like spazzed out and had a stroke.
So yeah, any freshmen or sophomores here, I would really recommend standard oratory. One, it's not too difficult in a lot of ways because you're just talking. You don't have to worry about characters or anything like that. Yes. HD is a wonderful idea, especially if you have a partner. HD, ton of fun. It's very active. At the end of the day, my biggest general recommendation is don't worry about winning. Worry about being proud in what you're doing and having a good time.
That's the best way to improve.
If you're gonna write an OO about like personal feelings in high school, what would you recommend for that? How would you?
I think if we're going about personal feelings, I'm using IHOP as the example here, right? Using personal feelings should be more of something like islands on an ocean, if that makes sense. So if I'm writing about just random, a struggle with OCD maybe, or something like that. What you really would prefer, make it more general, write about mental health or OCD as the problem, and use your own personal experiences as your roadmaps. So here's an example of how it affected my life. Here's how it affects people generally. Here's an example of what I did to come over this. Here's how other people do it. Here's an example. Because it makes you feel like it's personal about you, but if you just talk about your own life only, that can be alienating to your audience.
Whatever
Yeah,
you.
you have to make it make sense to the audience.
You could also go the route of being
You got extra consistency and too small.
Yes.
Thank you.
But if you do that, you have to include a lot of sources.
What did I mark down?
Anyone have any other questions about speaking events? I have like 2 other events I'll talk about since we don't have anyone before.
I'm doing the extemporaneous.
Oh, perfect. I have one other event I'm going to talk about.
Hold on, I think that corner.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I did extend too. It was a good time. I like that. Yes.
Like when you wrote your OO the first time, did you have to cut it down?
Yeah, I have a really bad habit, which is I'm very comfortable on stage because I've learned a technique. My way of dealing with nervousness is after. I call it bubbling, and I'll just put all of it away, so I'm fine on stage, and afterwards I go, see. But I'd be too comfortable, and I'd just be going, it'd be like a 12-minute piece, and I'd have to, so I'd have to write pieces that were 8 minutes, because I would add 2 minutes of time to them. So my recommendation is practice in front of a group, in front of the class, have that be timed, and if you know you're going to go too fast, write a piece that is 11 minutes long. If you know you're going to go too slow, write a piece that's 9 minutes long.
Trinity for free. Can
Yes.
So,
Question. I wrote a story, and it was kind of like an introduction to myself, but I didn't put my name in it. I just put, here's the story of a girl, and I went around the entire thing of my childhood and how it affected me, and at the end I said, and that's my story. Would that be an alright OO?
While it fits the technical rules, it won't do very well, unfortunately. And that's what I say, unfortunately. That's the kind of OO I more prefer. You need to have it be about something. The kind of the unwritten rule of oratories is they are teaching the audience something, or explaining something, or showing a point about something. They're mildly argumentative. I guess is the best way to say it.
Like wherever he wrote my SO, it was pretty much all about like the
This one was
disadvantages
about
and advantages of being tall.
I need
My
a
senior year
water.
one was about
Oh my
this is
God.
playing tabletop RPGs.
I didn't learn about keeping moms off
Thank
there.
you.
Oh man,
Pretty much all the socks I own are like this.
that's great. You're awesome.
Like Marvel and stuff like that.
It's a DI.
Well, Marvel and anime.
Yes,
Right?
I have a lot of My Hero Academia socks.
Oh my god, yeah.
I have four on High School Host Club socks. They go all the way up to my knees.
Okay, so other event I wanted to briefly discuss, because we don't have a person here for it, is poetry.
Oh yes, poetry. Listen up.
So poetry is very similar to prose that Michael talked about, in that you have a binder with your poems within it. So you get to see your poems. I would still very much recommend memorizing them. Similar to prose, you can use the binder to gesture. Poetry is I would say, more serious for the most part. Event.
Only
Though-
juniors and seniors.
Yeah, only juniors and seniors for poetry. I was a big fan of poetry. I did poetry my senior year, and now I'm a creative writing major in college that writes far too much poetry that isn't very good for assignments.
Hard to style.
But I really enjoy performing poetry. You don't walk around a lot. It's a lot about voice inclination and facial expression when it comes to performing poetry. You get the binder, you can gesture with it, but a little bit less roller coaster, a little bit more just normal hand gestures. You can do silly poetry. There's a lot of really great silly poetry out there. It just tends to perform not as well. If you really like it though, do it. Like I said, winning state far less important than having a good time. Any questions about poetry, standard oratory, or any other thing that we've talked about so far?
Can I just say something?
She rapes my
So,
boobs.
something I really hate about the current environment of speech
She used to
is
rape
the
my
fact
boobs all
that
the time.
innovation rarely wins.
Yes.
Just because you really raise the bar and do something awesome like Hunter, have fun with it, sometimes the judges will choose some generic script that just follows the status quo, and that's what they'll go for. So if you don't place well in the tournament, that isn't always your fault or a fault of the script. Sometimes it just comes down to the judge being a hard.
Judge's preference.
Yep. Very disappointed with those judges.
I'll talk a little bit about tournament etiquette as well, since I'm up here and I don't have to hop back up. But does anyone have any questions about any of the events that we've covered?
SO poetry.
Also, any of the other ones, I've helped everyone do every event at some point in my career, so I can answer most questions.
Like for that one, do you like look for other people's like do you like do speeches? Like,
You can do speeches, you can do other people's speeches, you can do books. So my standard oratory was How to Start a Horror Movie, which is a book. What I would recommend is look for speeches in books that are about
It's so good.
something, or like in an argumentative format. So like something that either has like a list of things that you do, or stages or examples. It's difficult to do just a story. In oratory, they tend to not perform. They have to be like, here is point 1 of my oratory, and here's point 2 of my oratory, and here's point 3 of my oratory, or point 4 or 5 or 6, or however many you have. And then here's my conclusion, because it is written as an essay, even in standard oratory form. But it can be in a script. It just needs to be a script with a single voice, no characters.
is there a time limit on that?
10 minutes is the oratory time on that. Yep.
Oh, I raised my hand too early.
That's fine.
Yeah, he's got it.
Now I forgot what my question is.
We'll come back to it. Think about it. Any other questions about events?
I
Times?
remember.
Yep.
What is the minimum time limit for an SO and an OO?
there is no hard minimum. What I will say is for any event,
Write your own roasts.
the preferred space is 1 minute before closing. So if it's a 10-minute event, 9 to 10 minutes is your preferred time, but you can go as far as 8.
Okay.
If it's a 6 minute, it kind of short. The shorter the event, the closer to the end of it you want it to be.
Yeah.
The perfect time, of course, is 10 minutes, but you're really, don't mess with that. Try to be like the girl,
Kind of.
9:30.
Be kind of pushing it. If you
Yes.
try to get.
No, you can technically go over and you'll get penalized.
Yes.
But you won't get disqualified.
You can.
10 seconds over is a grace period.
Yes.
10 seconds grace
30
period.
seconds, and you're
Now, she has a
30
question.
seconds, yeah. These two both have ones. You're drinking, yep, front.
For poetry,
Mhm.
can you write your own poetry and?
No, you do have to use
Okay.
published poetry. If you have published poetry, yes,
Yeah.
but it does have to be published. Yes. Yes, several. Memorization is key, but what I will also recommend is you don't have to have rote memorization. The judges do not have a copy of any of your scripts.
Can't they ask for one?
They
They
can
can
ask
ask
for
for
it.
one, but you will not be penalized for having, we'll say, up to 30 words being wrong. give or take.
Yeah.
They're not gonna be like, well, you have and here, but you said but. Like, none of that's going to happen. So I think it is more important to get to the point where you are comfortable being like,
Well,
oh, I
kinda
missed the
changes
word,
the
that's
whole
fine. Like, I
gist
missed
of
that
the-
sentence, I know what
you
the
know.
next thing is. That is my,
Ding.
as far as how to practice memorization, my method was always write up my script. One, even if you're like cutting, write up the script, like type it out and have it formatted well. That act alone, 30% memorization done, because you physically wrote it out yourself. I would then read it a lot to myself, and then you move on into speaking aloud. And then once you begin to actually practice, I would recommend filming yourself and practicing in front of a mirror so you can watch your facial expressions. Especially for events that don't have, big blocking, facial expression and arm movement are key for those choreographed. And that can be practiced like this, but even HD can be practiced by just putting like your phone up and recording yourself that way. And then you can watch over it. That helps you memorize because you're getting the lines again, and you can also see what blocking looks like, how the lines are being delivered. Are you facing the audience properly at those times? All that sort of stuff. Any other questions?
Yeah. So, Declan, how do you want to do this? You want to go DAX, DID, or you want to do DAX, DAX, DD,
Can I real quick just do like how to deal with ballots and tournament etiquette stuff?
Sure.
While y'all figure out that.
Yeah, you guys are.
So, having spoke about judges' discretion, there will be a lot of times where you are not happy with your rankings. It happens every year to everyone at some point or another. There will be times where you have ballots that are not helpful, and that can be really frustrating. My favorite example, he did get not attractive as a critique.
Oh, God.
Yeah, my
Yep.
partner did.
That's only happened once, but it was very funny. About me getting not attractive on a critique. Yes. Yes, so, yes.
Guys, focus back.
Yeah, no worries. So, I think I didn't explain this properly. Whenever you perform, your judges, it is their job to not only rank you, but write critiques of your pieces. This goes all the way up to state. At state, you do not get critiques, unfortunately, because that's the final level. But until that point, part of the judge's job is to say, hey, here's what I liked, here's what I didn't like, here's how you can be better. Often, ballots helpful. Important notes on etiquette in tournaments: we do not complain till we've left. That's the rule. That is the hard rule. If you break that rule, you're an asshole. Because you're just complaining. You are being a dick to the judges, you're being a dick to other students. Especially if you're like, that person doesn't deserve to win. Never say that. Always be of the utmost respect, and I don't mean this even like you represent your community, or those are important notes. You represent yourself. And you don't want other people to think that you're a jerk. No one wants that. We've had people in the past that have done things. If you don't have your script ready, you can attempt to perform it. I'm not discouraging that, but if you're like, I can't do this, don't walk up and go like, thank you for first. We had people do that, about kick their ass. Don't. You say, we're really sorry, we didn't get this practiced in time, we don't feel comfortable, we are going to step out. Preferably, you do that beforehand, before the due date, but dropping costs the school money. So sometimes you just have to go take your licks and you have to just do a real bad job and you move on. I've done it. I did a DI that I did not practice enough and I took that lick and I went home. We've all done it. It's not bad. But if you think someone didn't deserve that win, you wait till the bus and you yell about it then. Because it happens. I've had people beat me where I'm like, that person did not deserve to beat me. They took a 30-minute break in the middle of their
At
course.
state, our senior year, I didn't think Marlowe should have beat us.
Yeah. There's a bunch of things. Outside of that, always be of the utmost respect to the people performing in the room with you. Laugh at their jokes. Don't laugh during sad things. Just do your best. Public speaking is really, really scary and really, really hard for everyone, even people that are really good at it.
Cheers. I'll
I'm
bring
the
that
filmer.
No, I'm
good.
filming.
My
But
mess
you
up my
did
stomach and I gotta drive
really
after this.
camera.
But thank you.
And my ass is
That being
showing
said,
under the shirt. No, it's
most drama people are pretty respectful, and you want to return that courtesy is also a big part of it. But if you're kind to them in their performances, they'll be more likely to laugh during yours too, or cry, depending on what you're doing. Being said, they covered a lot of stuff. Don't go in the rooms before your judges are there. Tell people where the bathrooms are. Like, don't do any like petty, weird stuff to people. It's not worth it, and it just makes you look like a jerk. I think that's all
Never
tournament
forget
etiquette
your
stuff. Unless someone has
chairs.
questions for me. Things that
questions
they
about tournaments?
like dress code, anything like that that hasn't been properly clarified yet. Yes.
How are tournaments set up?
Depends on the tournament, unfortunately, but normally, here's how a normal tournament day will break down. You will all meet at the school and carpool to the tournament venue. When you get to the tournament venue, there will be a common room. On the common room, there will be a wall. On that wall will be a bunch of paper glued or sticky taped or stapled or whatever way they decide to put it on the wall. You will say, I'm doing OO. I go find original oratory on those pieces of paper, like OO. I go, all right. What room, which OO, so there's 3 of them. I find which one my name is on it. I go, okay, what room is that OO? It's room 103. Okay, all right, now I'm in room 103 at 11:30. I speak 5th. I'm 5th in the order. I recommend this. First thing you do, find that board. Second thing you do, go find your room. Even if you have 3 hours, you go find your room. First thing you go, all right, this is where I'm going to be in 3 hours. Then you go hang out in the common room. You go watch other people's events. You support your teammates, whatever. You practice if you forgot to practice, because it happens. Or if you're really nervous and you just feel more comfortable practicing until it happens. You go to the room, you wait until the judges enter. You then follow them in. You sit. The judges will do a roll call. They'll say, Hunter Roberts, and you'll say, here, the name of my script is 9:30 p.m. in an IHOP, and they'll write that down and move on to the next person. First person goes up, performs, sits down. They'll call up the next person. They go up, perform, so on until the room's done. Once everyone has performed and sat down, you can all leave. You do that. If there's a bunch, you'll have a finals round, so you'll have like a prelim, then a finals. You go to the finals. That repeats. Then there's a big awards ceremony at the end of the day where they call out who got what place. And that's how a normal tournament breaks down.
Just so you guys know, the final rounds of most of the events are packed.
Yeah.
They're packed in there, so it's
HD?
hot, it's stuffy.
HD especially. HD
Yeah,
will be,
University West
there will be
will be
people
packed.
standing in regionals HD.
Where does
For finals, a bunch of people didn't make it through prelims, so they have nothing to do, so they go watch events.
How could you say?
Any other questions?
Oh.
I just have one more thing on
Didn't think we
etiquette.
made it to finals.
I have one more thing on etiquette. And that thing on etiquette is, and I kind of mentioned this before to some class, I can't remember which one you are. Everybody is your best friend until you compete. And then they're your best friend after. Make all the friends you can, rub all the elbows you can, and then stomp their face in when it comes time for contest. Okay?
Yeah, like I
Marlowe
said.
is not our enemy. Marlowe's our best friend until we compete against him.
I was like,
Until we compete against him. And then we need to get all the information we've gathered against him and use it.
I still text Micah and Jared sometimes.
Yeah, there's some really great, for sports, they're our rivals for sure, but for this kind of stuff, they're pretty much our family. They're in the same area, they're a great help, and their speech and debate coach always comes and helps us set up our events. She is amazing, and you guys are going to get to meet her and love her.
Oh yeah, I hit her in the boob once.
Michael!
We were singing Defying Gravity, me and Krisha, and I did this, and she was walking by, I hit her in the boob, and then she went, oh!
Michael insulted.
And she looked so hurt, so betrayed.
But yeah, Marlowe is.
He still loves me.
Like I said, whenever we had the Marlowe demo day, I had a dance competition when we were going over but no, it wasn't awards. It was a model tournament. Whenever we were about to do the awards, I got up and started doing the floss.
Oh my god.
And somebody else got up and started doing it too, from a different school. So we go down there and start having a little dance competition. And then so many people come from the chairs and start dancing with us. It was so fun.
That's insane. Yeah, a lot of stuff like that happens. They'll play music during the award ceremony, everyone will dance and do dumb stuff like that. I think it's stupid, but I also kind of like it.
Michael, I've seen you dance at those.
When did you see me dance?
I have a video of it.
When we see
You stood up and you started singing because this one song came
Define
on.
Gravity. That's my hit. This is calling Boo. It's a
I,
banger.
I might actually have that on video then.
That's my hit.
Call it Boo.
It's a banger. He said.
So we're gonna, if there's no objections, we'd like to talk about the DDs. You may realize on this it's called the roast of DDs. That's because I do not like DDs.
DDs make me uncomfortable. I love doing it too.
It was a weird burp.
Okay, that's fine.
Hey, Joe.
It's a beautiful bird.
Come on in.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Ubes Cuba.
Kubera skudera. Oh no.
Urube de Cuba.
I'm so puzzled.
I just can't take it.
What are you doing?
Okay.
Look at my nose.
So something I reviewed might realize you haven't talked
Boogers.
about
Nostrils.
is
Oh, we gotta go
dramatic
back.
duets.
No way.
No, it's a dramatic duet. Would you say they have similar roles in HD and DD?
They do for the most part.
Don't be, it's obviously not funny, it's dramatic. Unless a joke is being told, don't laugh. Be serious. Take them seriously, even if you hate it. I went to the regionals finals for DD my freshman year. I hated every second. All 90 minutes of it. And so I'd like to tell you about the worst performance I've ever seen. It's called Sunday Sunday. Hear it? Hear that sigh? You see Hunter shaking his head? That's because Sunday Sunday it shouldn't have been at demo day. It shouldn't have been the shining example of what a DD is. We've got two girls. They're a little kooky. They're in an insane asylum, and they're roommates. One is very timid, very sweet. Her name's Anna. One is named Ashton, and really wants to break the other. It's never explained what they mean by break, but it's really uncomfortable. In the climax of the story, she walks around. Turn around, Anna, turn around, rubbing up against her. Turn around, Anna, turn around. Turn around, Anna, turn around. Like, just rubbing up against her is like softcore lesbian porn. Everyone can attest. Straight up urine.
Yeah, and may I add that the person playing Anna was literally sitting just like this.
It's
for the entire
Turn around, Anna, turn around.
and she didn't even move. She just sat there and she's just like
I've seen one good HD in DD. It got disqualified.
I've seen a few. I'll talk. We've done the roast. I'll give the positives of the DD.
All right.
Dramatic events are hard. I would say dramatic events are significantly more difficult than the humorous events.
But they're all about dead babies.
Well, it's
That's part of it.
harder to make people cry than it is to make people
But
laugh.
it's just so ham-fisted most of the time.
What I will say is, the goal of a good dramatic event is not to be deeply sad or make people cry in the audience. It is to give a genuine. It is actually about acting. If you can actually act and portray a character that seems emotionally congruent and works the entire time, you've done an actual good DI or DD, and that will work. I think a really good example, a good DD that I saw was done here, which was Keaton Bohannon and Blake.
Yeah, Blake.
Who did, goodness.
Gilbert Grape.
Yeah, What's Eating at Gilbert Grape? Or whatever.
Yeah, What's
title.
Eating Gilbert Grape.
What's Eating Gilbert Grape, which is about a brother and his mentally challenged younger brother. But they don't play that for laugh, or nor is it ham-fisted. They just do the movie script short and done.
Those are the best DVDs.
Those are the best DVDs. Avoid anything sexual in nature. Rape, while incredibly sad, is incredibly uncomfortable. It'll be a very comic, dramatic piece, but no one wants to see it. You aren't going to make anyone cry. You're just going to make everyone kind of be like, man.
Me and Lynn have stories.
Similar notes, anytime you're doing a DD or DI, you have to be very concerned with being respectful of whatever it is the subject matter of that. So if you're doing something about someone with a mental illness or PTSD or any of those sort of things, remember this isn't a joke. It shouldn't be treated as a joke. It's supposed to be taken as serious. All those things are very important. That being said, if you feel the call to do a dramatic event, I heavily encourage you to try it. Do your best and really give it a full effort. I think it makes you better at humorous because you get a better job at acting if that's your goal. But also, it can help build your ability to act. You might discover that that's something you really enjoy doing. There's my positives on dramatic events.
Well, I was saying one of the best ones I've ever seen was Cameron and Kamita?
Yes.
Yes.
That's what I was talking about.
Came routing it, yes. They did an absolutely wonderful DD about.
Dead babies.
It wasn't about dead babies. It was
Yeah.
about,
It was about their baby
they,
that had died in a fire.
They fell in love. There was a dead baby in it, I suppose. That wasn't what it was about.
Yeah.
They fell in love. They have a kid. There's a house fire. The woman of the relationship gets horribly
It was a car crash, actually.
Yeah, it was a car crash.
No.
Woman.
It was fire.
Yeah, it was a
I think they
house
changed
fire.
it to a car crash.
It was a house fire, and he went in and saved her and not the baby.
Yeah, that's what it was.
She's-
Saved her, not the baby.
They changed
So-
that for regionals.
Whatever.
Manchester by
They
the stuff?
did that. They ended up getting disqualified. It's whatever there. They went over time. Careful about going over time. It's very tragic. Happens to the best of us. So you can do very, very good DDs and DIs. Any questions about dramatic events that we haven't covered with all of this?
You have to keep it straight. Go ahead. Sorry.
Question from anybody with a dramatic question? If not, we've covered most of it, but if just anyone has any specific things, rulings are the same. You have the same rules you have for HI and DD, or HD.
Majority of the rules will be the same, just a few things change for different events.
Yeah, so there's dramatic.
HD is 10 minutes also? Or
Yeah.
DDs?
Yeah, ADs are also 10 minutes. You have 2 chairs. You can move the chairs. You can move around. Of course, you're not going to be doing distraction and throwing the chair back and forth, but they are still used. And figuring out ways to do interesting blocking in dramatic events is a really, really good way to place well. Because a lot of them rely on the script, and they just sort of out sad stuff at you, as opposed to being good at the performance.
One of the best ones I've seen is car crashes. They're going along, and then all of a sudden it's a hit, and the chairs are sideways or whatever, and then now they're in a different place, in therapy, in whatever. And it's just a boom, and they pause for a second for that next scene change. And you can be, and it's a lot like the humorous duets, except you're just going for different things. And depending on your partner and depending on how you all act, you can turn something humorous into serious and something serious into humorous, like they were talking about with the chemistry. There's a lot you can do with these different events, and you get to mold it basically.
I think the final one in yes.
Isn't there like something with like author's intent?
Yes, you cannot fully transform a piece. So you could not take, for the most wild things I can think of, you could not make Step Brothers a DD.
Right.
Or like any like full-fledged like AAA Hollywood comedy.
I know you touched my drum set!
Get out of my face before I roundhouse your ass.
Something like that.
For a DD.
Yeah,
Okay,
sorry,
fine.
I was-
Similar note,
sorry, I
you
didn't
can't do Gone Girl as an HD. Even if you think you can make it really funny. But you can take things that are sort of more in the neutral plane and take them either direction.
I'm sorry, I like dark green.
Except, and that's
Go ahead, Declan. Don't mention the incident.
I will not mention the intent.
Mention the incident.
Just let them talk about extend.
Okay, so extemp is where things start to get a little different. You're not following a script. You're actually discussing real-world problems from a question you draw from a hat. So, it's a short speech that takes place in about I think it's maximum time is 7 minutes.
6.
I think it's
They
6.
might have extended it to 7, but
I think
4.
it's 7.
Yeah,
We'll say 4 to 7.
Yeah, 4 to 7 minutes.
It's 7 minutes is the cap.
And before you give your speech, you have 30 minutes of prep time. And what you're doing there is
That's fine.
you draw and as soon as you draw, you start your 30 minutes right there. You have 30 minutes to look over your question and do as much real-world research as you can. However, you cannot use the internet. You have to bring all of your resources with you, which is usually why we carry a step box. It has
If you guys need anything, you
has magazines. Hey,
Has Hunter left?
Sorry, guys. Hey, Hunter, can you come back a second?
so what this is.
Pause for a second, Declan. These guys got to go, so if you would, please give them a big thank you.
Thank you all very much. I might be back around tonight with you for needing something in if you don't have a contact.
Before
us.
regionals, try to get in touch with me.
Yeah, sure. Sounds good.
Thank you guys for listening, and I hope you guys enjoyed drama to its fullest extent, because I certainly did.
There is a lot in there for you guys. Can I say something really quickly? So there are, I think we're gonna wrap this up soon because we're really late. There are two things we missed. Lincoln debates